Good morning, everyone, and welcome to GPA Trading Services live trading class on this Tuesday, February the 24th, 2026. As you know, today is Tuesday, Gary's Market Forecast, or GMF. It's the heads up on what's going down in the market. But first, we have very specific rules of engagement. Those include the following. Do not trade with money you cannot afford to lose. Always trade with protective stops. Make certain the 4-hour, the 1-hour, the 30, and the 15-minute time frames align prior to trading with the MPA PE5 version 5.0 software. Also adhere to very strict money management rules, which includes never risking more than 2% of your entire account balance on any one given trade. For options friends, never risk more than 5% of your entire account balance on any one given options trade. And finally, all information provided by GPA Trading Services is for your educational purposes. So please give us a moment as we open up the charts. All right, ladies and gentlemen, picking up with dollar index on the monthly chart. Quick high-level overview. Wave 1 is done. Working on wave 2 down. At some point, this will end. We'll go breaking out. But you know what we've been discussing for the last multiple months. We don't think this latest one, it was the low. We ended up going higher to make another low. Said the same thing here. Likely not the low. Went up. Beautiful move lower. Now, still thinking this is not the low. Anything's possible, but I'd be remiss if I didn't tell you. Some point, this wave 2 will end. Is it going to come down here, or we're going to come up a little bit lower than this one? Still think the bias is more downside before we go breaking out. But just remember, at some point, this wave 2 will end somewhere in this area. Big area, but somewhere in this area. And then we'll go breaking out. So we shall see. First things first, I don't think this is the low again. Same rule. Got some overlapping chopping action, 3-wave correction that pushed us to this low. So that's typically not how it ends. We probably need at least one more flush before we could attempt to say, well, maybe that's the end, we go breaking out. But at some point it will. Jumping over to the charting platform, we could see we're just kind of grinding in this area. We still have several reasons why we believe we're still going to get another low. Big reason, we're below the Magic Fibo on the daily chart. That's bearish. This was that 3-wave correction that we made the last low. Typically, that's not the way that looks. So this clearly looks like it's a new 3-wave correction starting to grind. We're still stuck at this big resistance zone. So it doesn't mean we have to come up here to test this zone up here before we get rejected. We could just reject from here, but this does look like a 3-wave, which again, that's not conducive to a bottom reversal. That's more overlapping, stating we need what? Another push to a low. So this is why I still think there's a great opportunity for this thing to go much lower before we're done. And if we go back a few months ago or several months ago, we talked about this many times when we're getting these flushes and we saw some retracement, said, I don't think that's the low, got a new low. This one, we had a beautiful 3-wave correction. Proportions were perfect for a correction to lead us to another low. We got it. Wasn't much of one, but we still got it. This last one here, overlapping, chopping, grinding. Every time we went up and pulled back, we overlap. Then we need another push lower, overlap. Another push up, push down, overlap. So during that several weeks, I mean, you can see the low over here was like in September. We finally topped out in November. So we're talking a few months of this overlapping. We kind of said it, we're due to break lower. And then we got a beautiful 618 retracement, bounced into the Magic Fibo, failed, and it made a new low. So why again do we think this is not the low? Because A, we got a 3-wave down to finish that low. And now this upwards movement is overlapping and it's a three-wave move, which is not conducive to a breakout. Fair enough? So please be careful. This could grind its way toward the Magic Fibo, but we have some massive resistance up here from the Magic Fibo, which is around that 98 area, up to about 99.5, which is this prior swing point. Battle zone coming across over here. So this is a big resistance area, this whole zone. We're going to actually include a little bit wider now because the Magic Fibo has been sloping downwards. So all of this big pink box is massive resistance, or as I like to say, major resistance up here. So could we go up here, test it, and fail? Sure. Do we have to go up there? No, we don't have to, but I wouldn't be surprised if we did just kind of grind and grunt our way up there. All I can say is if we get up there, might be a good opportunity to look for this to get turned down, and we still need a new swing point low to kind of clean all this up, because this does not look like this is the end, especially after a three-wave down. That's the last low. So this is typically going to be a three-wave correction up and another five-wave down, pushing us down into the low 90s. And the plan is to get down here. We'll see how that plays out. The more we rally, and this could be an ending diagonal, which would give us that last flush down, and would still probably put us somewhere around the 95, 94 area. Just kind of be careful and mindful of the fact that at some point, this flush on the dollar will end, and we're supposed to go breaking back out. Fair enough? So again, could we see this grind a little more? Yeah, as we start getting into this mid 98 area / 99 area, I would not be going long from there. I think this is going to end up rejecting if we can even get up that high. We've been struggling here. And what can this be? We tested it once, pull back, testing it multiple times. It could still fail, or we could get that last little pop to make it more like a three-wave correction and then fail. But basically at this juncture, all roads lead to new lows and another swing point low. Could take days, could take weeks, might even take months, because we've been stuck in these levels for quite some time. From this high to that low, we're stuck below the 618. From that low to that high, we're stuck above the 618. We just kind of been chopping for the last weeks, or a couple of weeks probably, in this same zone. So if this continues and we just bebop in here for a while, we might go out until, March, April before we finally break down. But I don't see us breaking out at this point. Price would have to prove its intentions. And I always like to say, until price proves its intentions, no reason to believe we're ready to go breaking out. And theoretically, we got to get above this massive big resistance up here before we start talking about new highs. So that's why we're more likely to flush lower. And this grind lower does not look complete, especially after the last three-wave little push. That does not look complete. Fair enough? All righty. So what does that mean? That means, looking at the euro and the pound, if we do get the dollar to grind a little higher, the euro's probably going to grind a little lower, right? If the dollar goes up and tests the Magic Fibo, I would expect the euro to come down here and test that, to bounce and then go higher. Just like I'm saying, the dollar low is probably not the low yet. This high on the euro dollar is not the high that we're going to end up with. I think we're still going to get a higher low, higher high. And then we could start talking about, at some point, this will reverse. But how much higher do we go? Do we get into the mid-20s? Do we go to the upper 20s? Do we make it to the 30s? We shall see. But please keep one thing in mind until price again proves otherwise. You come back out here on like a 3-day and you scroll back to this prior swing point. From this high to that low, we started chopping. And what is that low? That was that low 3+ years ago, when I made a bold statement that this would be a good time to go long the euro dollar because this is expected to have a big correction over the next several years. And I said it was going to take multiple years. And here it is. This was back in late 2022, like September, October of 2022, when we talked about that. And yes, we have gone thousands of pips. And I still think there's a bit more to go before I think we're over. But this light here shows from that prior swing point low high to this low, we took out the 618, that 113.30 area. We took out the 786 around that 117.50 area. So that right there tells us we got a 75% chance we should go visit this 127.40 area and potentially go up a 70% chance we might go visit 130. So this is what I'm kind of thinking we might end up before we're done. We shall see, but we got to get above this high first. Then we got to break the prior high here, and then it's game on to these targets. All right. So up until price proves otherwise, I don't think this pullback is going to be the reversal. But again, I would be remiss if I didn't tell you, like we've been discussing this for a long time, all the euro is doing, and again, that's in my humble opinion, but my humble opinion and God-given talent to read and interpret price has been pretty good. So up until price proves us otherwise, we'll go with a different plan. But this looks like a bigger A, B, C correction. And I'm expecting the euro to make a new low below this 0.95, which we got back in August of 22. So this is just a correction, then another push lower. And again, I said it would take years to potentially get up here. It's taking years to get here so far, but I don't think that last swing point is it, and that we're starting to break down to the new lows now. This is clearly where we're headed long term. Short term, I still think we've got more upside. Amen? And do we make it to that 127, 130 off of that other chart, which is getting awfully close to our original zone up here for that reversal to come back down? This was never a reversal to go breaking out all-time highs. It was just simply a retracement for us then to make another push lower. A, B, C. Got it? But again, I don't think this is over. So when you go to the software, you can see we're still in this thing, just kind of grinding. We took profits and we keep doing that. You get in, take your profits, you get pipped out, you get back in. But this is part of that much bigger picture we've been talking about since this low. And sure enough, we're expecting more upside. Do we get to the 127, 130? That's why those two targets are sitting up here. Well, Emil, what happens if the dollar goes ripping higher and this thing plunges lower and pips us out? I'm going to get back in, right? We've been doing it over and over and over and over. And as you can see from the charting platform, we've been doing this many times and we reach our extensions. We could do this over and over from these lows. You get the extensions, you get a pullback, you do the next 618, 786, you go to extensions, you get your pullback, and we've been grinding. This was part of those targets over and over and over. Back when we hit 102, I said, let's go long. We're going to at least run toward the Magic Fibo. We did that. We broke it. Then we started doing the same thing. Buy the dip, get your extensions, get the retracement, next extensions, hit those, and you can rinse and repeat this over and over. From that high to this low, we reach those extensions, right? Just keep doing it. And then some. And then from this high to low there, we reach the extensions and then some. So we keep talking about it and price keeps manifesting with that same move. We had this low and that high, and then we got a deep retracement. We said, this is a perfect time that we got in, got pipped out, so get back in, went to this target, broke above, and rinse and repeat. And you can see from the bigger picture here, from that high to this low, we reached those extensions. So it's just been a continuation of this correction. From this high to this low, we reached the extensions. So in the same ballpark. So it's been the same kind of thing. That's why I still think there's more upside, even as these extensions went further. Now we're talking about what I just showed you, going back several years now, from this prior high in December of 20, January 21, December 20th, all the way down to October 22, that big decline still leaves us with some outstanding upside potential. Amen. Until price proves otherwise. And there's no reason to believe once you break the 618, you got a 75% chance. Once you break the 786, it reconfirms this target. So this is why I'm still letting that trade run until it gets up here. So this dip, likely going to dip a little further. If the dollar pops more, come back toward the Magic Fibo, then we can look for another opportunity that we're already in it. But if we do get the dip and we get pipped out, what am I going to do? Get back in like I did there. This baby went perfectly to his extensions, hit them, as we had talked about. Keep going. How many weeks and months during that period when this baby came down, we broke that 618 over here. So this was back in December of 25. And I kept saying, be patient, even though we got this pullback, these are still viable targets until price proves otherwise. And sure enough, we went ripping up and hit those targets. And I even warned you once we hit the targets, we would do for a correction. So this looks like a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And now we're getting a three-wave correction. And we should see this continuation. This is why I think, in my humble opinion, this is not the end of the euro. We are going to make new highs, and our outstanding targets, we could do shorter term, we could do longer term, but the 127, 130 is the longer term upside target. In the shorter term, we like to use Fibonacci retracements, extensions, and the Magic Fibo. So Mr. Tucson, what can we do? We can use the high down to the low, and right now it's this low, but if we come down to Magic Fibo, wherever the low ends up being, then we can start targeting back again from that high to this low. We have some new target, 121, 121.70. Again, what if we come lower and the dollar does go ripping up to that 98, 99.50 area, then this will come down into this 116, 117 area, and which we're already starting to dip into, and that would be an opportunity. So what if we get that? My daily gets oversold, my daily PAI hooks on the software, I'm going to look to get back in this thing and look for this thing to go pushing where? To these targets, en route to the 127, 130 targets. So this is what we do. We get a pullback, you break the 618, you set your eyes on the target. It takes time, but it highest percent, 75%, we're going to get there, 70 plus, we're going to get there. We did it. Now we'll have a new high to whatever the low is. We break the 618, it sets the tone, we go to the next one. So we'll keep an eye on this. Be careful that we don't have to come down here. All I can say is if we do and we get down there, I'm looking to add to the position for shorter term targets, 121, 121.90 area, and then longer term 127, 130. And that's what we showed you here. We've been in this thing. We booked profits over and over and over and over the years, thousands of pips since this reversal. And I don't think this recent high is the end, and we have more upside. And we even drew this Picasso back when we had this at a monthly, weekly, daily, multiple time frames oversold. And I made a statement, buy the PAI hook. We're going to get into this, be a good opportunity. And I drew this on a monthly. I said the monthly is going to grind its way toward overbought, then start slingshotting higher and higher and higher. And that's exactly what we've been doing. In order for us to continue to reach these upper targets, we need more of the same. Turnover slingshot. And that is the plan until price proves otherwise, right? So there you have it. So again, this swing point high right there is not the end. I think we are going to go higher. And what are we looking for? We're looking for this daily to finish this cycle down. So this little engage, disengage, just kind of grind lower. And when we finally get this oversold and the PAI hooks like that, or like that, or like that, when it gets oversold, that's what we're looking for. So we're already in this. Are we going to get pipped out? Maybe not. If we do, I'm going to get right back in. But when this daily turns and hooks, I'm going to buy that, get back in, and shoot for hundreds and hundreds of more pips. Amen? So back to the charting platform, we should get some sort of low. And again, I don't say that we have to come down here. I would not say you need to short the euro and let's go down about 100 pips, because this is a foregone conclusion. It'll probably happen that way. But once we get the low, we break the 618 off of that, game on. Just like we did over here, game on. We got there. And you keep rinsing and repeating this. From that high to that low, we did the same. Game on, we reached the extension. That high to that low, game on, we reached the extension. This one, game on, we reached the extension. So this is what we call rinse and repeat. So we'll have another high to some low. If it's not already in, it'll come lower. Then we break the 618. Then we target the 1448, 1272. And why do I keep saying 127, 130? That's on this bigger picture over here. And that happened back in 2022 when we topped out, bottomed, and from that high to that low, broke the 618. This candle body over here said a long time ago where we're going to go up to 127, 130 area. We haven't gotten there. We've been grinding our way up there. And until price, again, proves otherwise, no reason to believe we're not going to go up here. All right? So this is why I'm thinking this is not the end. We break the new highs. We'll have these upper targets, 121, 122 area, pushing toward that prior high. We break the prior high, then it's game on. All righty? What about the pound dollar? Pound's in a similar situation. I don't think, and let me stretch this out for you and zoom in so we can see. I set all these lines and colors, actually see some candle bodies and things. I don't think this was the end of that move either. I think the pound's going to go higher before we're done. And if we can't hold this prior zone, which we've been bouncing in, we may come a little bit lower and test this zone here, which is my prior low up to the high. That's that 618786 zone. So you can see just a little bit lower. If the dollar pops a little bit more and tests that Magic Fibo on the daily chart, then we'll probably get a little push lower, and you can go to the daily on this one. And maybe we come back down and touch this Magic Fibo here, like we did there before we went soaring. Now it looks like a three-wave correction. Is this the end? Maybe. Maybe that was enough and the pound's ready to go breaking out, or maybe we need one more little push into this big support zone to bounce. But all roads lead to the same thing. We're still going to go make a new high above that swing point, above that 138.60 area. Amen? That is the plan. And if you use the same logic and you come back to that same window we just showed you on the euro, and that is back over here, we have potential upside of 147.50, 152 area. Why? High back in December. Well, this actually happened over here was December, but again, kind of double topped up here in like May. Then we got the low in September 2022. And from that high to this low, we took out the 618 way over here back in June of 23. Kind of said we would go up here. And we got this chopping sideways, but we still eventually broke the 786, reconfirmed we're likely going up here. So until price proves otherwise, that's why I don't think this last swing point is the end. We get to the extensions, we'll go over in just a second. We break the 142, and then it's game on to go to 147.50, 152. All right. But please remember that this is a corrective action up, and we are expecting the pound to come back down, not a reversal here and go breaking out all-time highs. Fair enough? All righty. So zooming back in, what are going to be some upside targets? Well, we've been doing the same thing on these. You get your high, you get your low, you reach extension, get a pullback, you get your high, you get your low, we get a retracement, we get extensions. So we still have the prior extension 139, 140, which is going to be the shorter term, but we'll have a new one from this high to whatever the low comes in. Maybe we come down to the support zone. And then you break the 618 back up. Then you got your 139, 140 again, confluence of events. We break that. Then the door is ajar to go up here to 142. And then what's up there? My 147, 150, you know, the bigger picture, way over here, 147, 152. Amen? So in closing, I don't think this pullback may or may not be over, but I don't think this rally to the upside is done. I do think we're going to go higher. Do we break this? Once we get past that final hurdle, game on, we should go up about 700 more points. I like it. Pippers. And the game is just keep banking pips, banking profits, banking profit. Ebb and flow of the markets. That's what the software tells us. So you come back over here to the software, and we're looking for opportunity for when this thing finally finishes. Do we want to, is this the end, or we need one more flush? We probably need one more flush, but this is kind of what I was looking for, to come down into this Magic Fibo area to bounce. Maybe we need that last little push so this can finish that cycle, turn and hook. Then I'm going to buy it. Buy the trigger, go long, and get back into it. Fair enough? We booked 500 plus pips and more on this one. It pulled back, and I put my stop loss deeper into profit. We did get pipped out, kind of talked about that, and I'm looking to get back in when this finishes that cycle. So this is what I think is going to happen. Money flow is still headed down. Red and blue is starting to turn. So this will probably push a little bit lower, push a little bit lower. And then when the PAI hooks, we get a new trigger. I'm going to go long. Get back in and keep doing it. Amen? All righty. What's next? What about the euro yen and the pound yen? Still think there's more downside to be played. We are getting a bit of a bounce. I warned you about this last couple of weeks, that after this push of several hundreds of pips up here from 186-ish, came down to 180, about 600 plus pips, the daily's reversing. We're expecting this to maybe rally back toward this resistance zone. So this looks like we're getting these stair steps and likely going to get rejected for another push lower. And I do think there's more downside, but this rally is finding resistance right where we want it to. And as we get rejected, we're going to look for this to go down, make another new low, and start pushing toward the Magic Fibo on this daily chart, which you can see is right around this 178, 177 area. Look how thick that is. About 100 points right there, 100 pips. So the bias is not likely to go breaking out, more likely to get a rejection down toward the Magic Fibo. Fair enough? Pound yen, same kind of thing. Talked about going short, went up several hundreds of pips on that move, up here from 215 down to about 207, about 800 pips. Now we're getting the bounce. We talked about this last week. The daily was oversold, turning up, looking for this to start pushing into potential resistance zone, which is right up here. So from the recent high to the low, Let me kind of fix those. It looks like it moved slightly from the high to the low. We're looking for potentially a little bit higher. We don't have to go higher, but this is the resistance zone up here, right around that 212, 213 area. And I would expect that this will be resistance. And I would look for this to get rejected out of there. And ultimately, we have this push lower back toward the Magic Fibo. So be careful if you're scalping this to the upside. Randy and others that like to trade this pair, be careful with this upside move if you're long, because I'd be in a position of authority. Could it possibly break out? Anything's possible. But more than likely, it's going to get rejected and push lower. So we get up here and get rejected. The daily turns over. I look to short it back down. But with the monthly overbought, weekly overbought, daily overbought, still looking to push this lower. Amen? Any questions on that? This rally should fizzle, lower high, lower low. And once we start the downturn again, we're looking for that 205, 204 area. All right. Well, what about the markets? What are the markets going to do? Still think we got a drain down to the downside. We've been testing this lower trending high. This is ES, the S&P 500 E-minis futures. Why do I look at that? Because you get overnight price action, where if you look at SPX, we don't get that type of price action. You get the close the next day at open. And a lot of times you see these gaps, big gaps between the different days, and you don't have price action in there, which you can see gaps all over the place. Well, ES fills in those areas, and you don't get these gaps very often. Sometimes you do because it closes like an hour, but it's tradable for basically 23 hours a day. So it closes for an hour and continues later, and you get the price action. So for example, this is on a daily chart, and you can't see much action in here, but you go like to a 5-minute, and you can see when the market's open and close based on that daily closure, you can see some pretty big gaps in there. And then when you come back to ES, it can fill in those gaps. Everyone gets the point. So is this going bullish or is this going to be bearish? Well, we've been testing this 5-minute. We're trying to break out, but I don't see us really going ripping higher right now. 15, we've just been testing below that, finally popping just a little bit, still in this same zone we've been in for quite some time. And every time we get up here, we typically fall back down. 30-minute, we just recently trying to break that. 1 hour, we're testing it. 4 hour, this is what I said the other day and last week, that this was the one we needed to watch. That we probably, if we can start breaking it, maybe we would get more upside. But as we tried it, we'd failed and try it, fail, try it, fail, try it, fail. And we've been doing that for several days now, going in the last week. So even over here, even when we thought we were breaking out, we couldn't, right? We got above here, making these push. We kind of double top. And then since then, we got these lower trending highs. That is still bearish. So Emil, even if we're able to break that like we did here, ooh, it looks like we're going to break out. We didn't. And then we have this lower trending high line. So until we can break that to get above it, maybe we have a chance we're going to go up. But for right now, I think we still need another flush. More than likely, we need a flush lower down here. Need a new swing point low to kind of clean all this up. Before then, we can go breaking out. Now, on the higher term picture, this daily, I definitely think ES will make all-time highs again. I don't think this is the end. So, do we get the flush and correct down here to the Magic Fibo? That would be ideal. I would love to see it. Think about it. From the last time we did this basically double top, even though ES did make all-time highs just intraday temporarily, barely made a new high, and then we failed, and then we pushed lower, retrace, hit the trend line, failed, rallied, tested a couple of days, failed, and now we're still retracing. This does not look bullish for this breakout yet. Are we going to get up here? My humble opinion, absolutely. But I think we need this push down here to set the tone for that big bounce. So be careful if you're scalping this up and you're thinking, ooh, I think this is ready to go breaking out. Gary said we're going to go up to 7,000, 72, maybe 7,500. I'm going long right now. Be in a position of authority because this really needs another flush. Right? Just look at it. We've been chopping and going nowhere for quite some time. Yeah, there's a range in here. Don't get me wrong. I know a lot of futures traders out there die and go to heaven with a point or two. When we set these up, we go for 50 points, 100 points, 500 points, 1,000 points. And that's what's setting up. We can get this flush. We're setting up several hundreds of points. Amen? And this looks like we need that flush. So from this recent high to low, we're bogging down at a 618. That's not bullish, right? From that high to this low, we kind of stretched it a little bit, but we still failed. So each time we get the upper move and then the push back, it's failing around a 618. And again, the more you do that, the more this kind of says we really need another flush. So be careful with this bounce. Until we break above this lower trending high line and we basically get above this prior resistance zone, we tested, failed, tested, failed, tested, failed, tested, failed. So this whole zone up here from the lower trending high line and this prior line here, which is a battle zone up here of our all-time highs, then no reason to believe we're going up here. We probably, again, need that flush. All I can say is if we get there and when it happens, beautiful time to go long. And what does the software look like on that? It's a thing of beauty. It is setting up beautiful for that bounce. But I don't think we're quite ready yet. So I had talked about this, that we're expecting this to grind lower, and we kind of entered this trade, not because I was telling you need to short it, but I do think it's going to go down, and the software just entered, so I'm just going to let it run till it's done. But as the weekly is overbought, that is a likelihood we're going to see this push lower, and we get that last little flush, and then it's going to slingshot higher like we've been doing. And we've been on a stretch of that cycle up, slingshot, 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 slingshot. So I don't think this is going to cycle down and we're going to go plummeting into something really vicious. I just think this is going to depressurize for us to slingshot higher. And I'm looking for this daily to finish this cycle. So what's this going to look like? See this chop and grind? This is going to end up turning over, going lower. And when it does, we get this flush down. I'm going to go long and look for this to go breaking out. That is the plan. So I want to buy the PAI hook from oversold territory when it turns. Amen? And this will probably last several more days, maybe even in the next week or so. So looking at the charting platform, I don't think this is ready to go breaking out. Sure, you made a little pips on this. Well, you can see why. I got it over here, and let me go to a different so I can take it off of that and not mess up that trade. Come back over here and do it on this one. What's reversing? We got a small 4-hour reversal, 1 hour, and it's kind of grinding at the moment. That's why you need to be in a position of authority, even off of this last flush. What does this look like? A little 3-wave move. Be careful. So if you're a scalper, when this 1 hour gets toward overbought, that's a perfect time. You bail, be in a position of authority, but I would bail and get out because I think it still needs that last flush. So this will probably grind into here, cycle back down, grind up, 4 hour kind of do the same, cycle back down, push the daily down, and then we'll take it when we get down into this Magic Fibo area, which is this 67 area would be ideal. Amen. That's a beautiful area. So in closing, if you're long on this bounce, be in a position of authority. What did I say for the last multiple weeks and months? If you're trading long, be aggressively taking profit. You're trading short, be aggressively taking profits. We've seen this chop and grind go on for quite some time. Sure, it's a range, and I still think we need to flush to clear all this up. But since that last move, look at this. Overlapping, overlapping, overlapping. So this is not the type of maneuver you get before you go breaking out. You need the last flush to then set up a reversal. Amen? And that is not the flush we're looking for. This is too overlapping. Amen? All righty. So could this go higher? Sure. We start breaking this trend line. We break this level up here. Game on. No questions asked. We take that out, break the trend line, sets the tone. We take close above the 7,000 and change, then it is game on for a couple of 100 points, at least a couple of 100 points. But looking at all this overlapping action, looks like we still need one more flush. So again, well, Gary, I'm up 42 points. Congratulations, be in a position of authority. Let that 1 hour maybe push a little bit higher, maybe make a few more. But again, we're running into some resistance zone, lower trending high. Again, when you look at trend lines, it's the least potent or strength-wise in the technical picture arena, but they do come into play. Price action, this overlapping action, again, is not conducive to this yet. We probably need a flush to straighten that out, and then we could set up a thing of beauty. What else is very appealing? If we get that flush, come down here and you use a 2-point tool from this low up to that high, it's a 618 retracement. See it? 618786. That's why that green box is there. Kind of straighten that up. That's why this green box is here. So, Mr. Tucson, if we can get that last flush, what is that setting up? It is setting up a 618 retracement and a Magic Fibo bounce. We call that the combo meal, right? And what happens when you get a combo meal? You typically push toward a 1618. That would put us toward the top of the bubble, 75 area. I like it, right? But I still want to see this overlapping chopping action correct, push to a new low to straighten us up to give us the bigger picture degree of a 618 Magic Fibo combo bounce into the initial target 7270, 73 and change, potentially up toward 75. And then, like I said, on the euro dollar, I didn't think that 121 area was the end. It would still go higher. And then the pound, that 136.80 area would 138.60 area was the end. It still go higher. Well, I don't think that is the end of the dollar. In this case, the S&P 500 move. Still think it's going higher, and I definitely think we're going up into the bubble. But we probably need a flush lower. When it does, the daily will be oversold. We'll have a beautiful opportunity to buy that dip and then look for us to have a big surge. All right, so this is the destination, but I don't think we're just ready to go there now. If I'm wrong, and this baby does break above the trend line and we close above here, then by all means, 200 plus point minimum once we break out. Otherwise, we're probably going to flush down and come toward this Magic Fibo. The NASDAQ has done it. We already reached the Magic Fibo and we've been testing it. So if we get a flush down for the S&P 500 to go down to that daily Magic Fibo, this one will probably make a move toward that 23, maybe 22 area, which is the 3-day Magic Fibo sitting down here. So we may need a flush lower in order for us to set that up. And look at the 3-day. It's right in the neighborhood, that 22, 23 area. And you see where my target zone is. This is sloping upwards. And what if it takes us a few days, a few weeks, whatever, come down? Maybe we intersect the two to set up the big bounce on the NASDAQ. NASDAQ is setting up for a big run as well, but this overlapping chopping action still looks like we need another flush lower. So please be careful on this one as well. That if you're trading this long, I would definitely be taking profits because I'm looking for this to fizzle and break back down below this prior low, that 23.9, setting up 23.5, 23.2. Maybe we come toward this 22.3, which would be ideal as this is sloping upwards and we kind of meet in the middle of this target zone before we go bouncing. So I will make a statement. This was the all-time high for the NASDAQ. I don't think that's over. I do think we're going to 27,000 and higher before we're done. Got it? So all this overlapping chopping action since then, this last move here is at a lower high. ES made a slight higher high. NASDAQ did not. That again is more likely we need a flush to clean all that up before then we can go into some new highs. So I definitely think we're going higher, but I think we got to go lower first. And we've already been testing on the daily chart, the Magic Fibo came down, bounced, came down, bounced, just kind of chopping and holding it right now. But that's what I'm saying, be careful. We do have the same kind of thing with, let me move this out of the way, a downtrending lower high, a steep one here in this zone. So we have been making lower highs, lower highs, lower highs. So be careful with that. We got the big resistance zone from the recent high to that recent low. This pink box is the resistance zone. And even if we rally into this, it would look like a 3-wave correction would still warrant another flush. So I would not be expecting us to go way up here yet. Yes, I definitely think we're going to do it. Hint, hint, hint. My humble opinion, we're definitely going to get the bubble hunt. Probably need another flush lower. And as we stop holding the daily Magic Fibo, we start to see a daily candle close below this Magic Fibo, basically below that swing point right there. What are we going to do? We're going to go testing the prior swing point right there, which is below the Magic Fibo, and sets the tone for this target zone and sets the tone for that 3-day moving average right there, the 3-day Magic Fibo, that is, excuse me. Any questions? So take your profits on this bounce. Look for this thing to reverse. It needs to clean up the picture. This looks like what? And so far, we're at a higher low, but this is at a lower high. So we're just kind of wedging in here. This thing could take weeks and then finally do it, or we can get maybe a little tariff talk, a bomb go off in Iran, go into a little engagement. Anything can happen where this can go plummeting, but the price action says we need this before we can get that. Amen? We need to push lower before we can go higher. Any questions? So be careful. And the same thing, looking at the software setting up on the S&P, now the NASDAQ, kind of the same. I want to get this daily back to oversold, just kind of grinding. The weekly's turning over. Still looking for this to push a little bit lower. And we've been engaging, disengaging, engaging, disengaging, engaging, disengaging. So I'd like to see a little bit more depressurization. Ideally, what would be great is if this weekly could finish that cycle. This would be salivate country. We get the weekly to get all the way oversold and turn like that. Beautiful. Trigger higher. There you go. So all this chopping for the last few weeks to month or so, since that swing point back there, we're looking for well, a few months. This is on a weekly chart, few months. We're looking for this to do what? Get that last flush. Let the weekly finish. Weekly PAI hook is salivate country. Amen? All righty. So in my humble opinion, go back to the daily, I don't think this is ready to go breaking out just yet. I think we've been bogging down and overlapping, need that last flush. Love to see this turn back over, get to oversold, buy the daily PAI hook, and even more importantly, let the weekly do the same, get over it here. Not to say this has to go all the way down here and do it, but if it does, boy, does it set up some big runs like we've gotten in the past. Amen? Big runs. And this kind of looks similar. Had this chopping, overlapping, and we got the final flush below that low. It set up the big run, and now we're working on it again. Get the last flush, then we set up and go. Any questions on that? All right. So what are going to be some upside targets? Well, once we get the final, and I'll take some of these lines off, but here's my targets up here, but we'll finally get a flush below this low and say we do come down to that 23, 22 area. You'd have a high, you have a low. We start getting back above that magic Fibo, which would be my 618 area. Then it sets the tone back again for these targets, 26.9, 27.3, 27.6, maybe even tops out somewhere around that 28.5. I like everything about it, as you can tell. So in closing, definitely think we need another flush before we go breaking out. Be careful not to get sucked in. We got several areas of resistance. We got this prior high here. We got the downtrend that we're expecting, these lower highs. You got all these resistance zones, not only the all-time high over here with the lower high, but then as we started stair-stepping lower, got one here, stair-step lower, got one there. So there's a ton of resistance in this zone. Needless to say, from that high to that low, 618786 pink box, likely need a flush. Amen? All righty. So my downside target is going to be 23.5, 23.2 area. If we don't hold that, maybe we start pushing down to that 22 area, which kind of sets the tone for what? We break below the daily magic Fibo. We take out this prior swing point low right here, which is 24.239 area. So this guy right here, Mr. Tucson, we close below that. The probability we come to these targets is 75%, 70+%. So that would put us in the mid 23,000, maybe push it even lower to the 22,000. And that's when I'm looking to buy for a several thousand pip run up. I do think before we're done, again, that is not the all-time high that we're going to stop. We do get all-time highs again. We just need this bigger correction to finish playing out. And that is that bigger A, B, C. Then we start salivating for that big up move. All right, so be careful. This would likely fizzle and drift lower. That's kind of the plan. Amen? 23.5, 23.2 area right there. What about the Russell? Russell's a little bit more bullish. We kind of hit that one beautifully after the bounce off the Magic Fibo, went right to our targets. And now we're getting a correction. This is overlapping. So I still have more upside bubble hunting for this guy as well. But this looks like we probably need one more flush. And man, if we can flush down here, this would be ideal. We get ES to flush down to its daily Magic Fibo. We get the NASDAQ to flush down to that 23, 22 area, which would be the 3-day Magic Fibo. And then we get the Russell to flip down toward its Magic Fibo on the daily and set up these big buys. Just like the last several times we talked about it. We did the high, we did the low, we'd go to extension, we did it. Now we need the high to the low, we'll do extensions, and we'll do the same thing. But what's setting up for the Russell? This 3,000, 3,100 zone up here, high probability. So I'd like to see this corrective action finish with a flush, clean that up to set up the next push toward that 3,000, 3,100 area. All right. So Emil, we can get a flush down there. Man, that's a thing of beauty. So how do we play the Russell? You can play IWM, right? We're expecting IWM to go up here to that 300, 290 to 300, maybe 315 area. See my bubble over here? So I do want to see a flush down. Why do I like it? Because we have the low, we have the high, we can get the flush down. Look at that. A beautiful 618 retracement combo meal where we not only get a 618 retracement, but it ends up being a Magic Fibo 618 bounce combo. And typically when that happens and it starts breaking out, you make a run toward that 1618. That could put the IWM toward that 315. Either way, we get down here, we're looking at about a 25% increase to get to those targets, maybe more to get to the extension up here. What's a way we can play that? Well, you can buy some IWM or you can put a little leverage on it with UWM. So I'm looking for this to flush. This still looks corrective and chop. So what do we need to correct that? One more flush. So if we can get UWM down in the 40s, mid to upper 40s right there, and we come visiting that Magic Fibo, it too would have the low to the high, a 618 retracement, Magic Fibo bounce, plus a 618, just like on the underlying IWM. Now again, this is ultra, so it is leveraged. So if we're right, it should do 2 times that type of bounce. And if you look at that type of move, what are we talking about? This thing could push toward the 72 up there. If IWM does it and it goes toward that 315, 314 area, then this will likely times 2 push it towards this 72 range. And we could be buying it in the 40s potentially as we come down. That could be almost a double. I like it. Plus leverage. That's not a bad deal. So that's the plan, ladies and gentlemen. No buy, sell to hold. I'm looking to get that flush down to correct our markets. ES go down to Magic Fibo on the daily. NASDAQ push down probably close to that 23.5, 22-ish zone. Maybe it reaches the 3-day Magic Fibo. And the last time, well, I'll just show you that real quick. Last time the NASDAQ did that on a 3-day was our Liberation Day. Right? We came down here, dipped way down, and then ripped. So that would be the energy I'd love to see. A beautiful on a weekly chart. Man, if we can get down there. 618 type of retracement on a weekly 3-day, not a weekly 3-day. Could we get up to that 28 zone? You betcha. So this dip should be bought because I do not think that is the end. And this looks like a bigger correction after that big run up. This looks like an A, B, C. So we need that last flush to clean this up. What does the flush look like? Break the low. head toward the extensions, and maybe get a perfect run into that 3-day. So as we chop and grind lower, maybe we intersect the two, and then we go popping toward this extension up here, 27.3 up to 28.5, somewhere in that zone. But 27,000 is a foregone conclusion. In my humble opinion, we will make all-time highs again. Fair enough? So if we can get the perfect move, ES makes a move to the daily Magic Fibo, right? So a little bit different. Push down here to Magic Fibo, somewhere around that 66 area. That would be ideal, or a little bit lower is fine too, but that could set up a flush down here. NASDAQ could set up a flush lower because we're already testing the Magic Fibo, lower to this target zone, getting in the 3-day zone, and then the Russell IWM gives us the flush. This looks like an A, chopping, overlapping, need another flush. We come down in this zone, beautiful buying opportunity, because written on the wall is this 290 to 315 area. That's the bubble we're looking for. So Harold, if I get this flush and we see this down around that mid 240s on IWM, I'm going to start buying UWM, which should be in the mid 40s. So we get to the mid 240s down here, drop about 20 points or so, then this should put us into the 40s, which would be ideal. And then we're going to look for that pop. And if IWM makes that run up here, UWM is going to make that run times 2. And that would put us almost around a double. Get in the 40s, shoot for the 70s. I like it. Okay? That's the plan. What about our global liquidity? Are we going to finally get that big push and then a retracement? I like to look at the futures one. I got that bad tick here in this one. Look at that. Look at that thing. Wow. So we're kind of filling that thing, and then we're going to get a pullback, or are we going to get this pull? All we can say is, what do we know about the NASDAQ? I look at it as global liquidity. What does that mean? Global liquidity is what this represents. And when we see these big flushes in here, like we got, and I'll stretch this out, this is a weekly chart. I'll do a 3-day, give us a little bit more price action in there. We got this back in July 24. That was called the carry trade unwind. Why is this important? You can borrow money from the yen at low interest rates, and people typically do that and then invest it in high interest rates like ES, NASDAQ, crypto back in before we hit the crypto winter, Bitcoin, etc. And then they would take that money, and then when it unwinds, it's ugly. So all that money that they're borrowing at low interest rates from the yen, then we get a big correction when the carry trade unwinds. And this is a big, beautiful A, B, C correction before we went ripping. Well, guess what? This thing is getting parabolic. So what do we know about silver? What did I warn you about silver and others? You don't go parabolic, psychology of a market cycle forever. You're going to get a big correction. This thing is coming sooner than later, but no later than later. So be careful on this. We do need a flush. And when this flushes, global liquidity shrinks and market shrinks. So it typically pulls our markets down. NASDAQ, ES, QQQ, etc., depending how you trade, the Dow. So when this flush happens, what happened during here? Well, the second time was the Liberation Day. And what did we see? NASDAQ went down to the 3-day Magic Fibo on that flush. So we just get a little flush here. That's going to flush our markets. Then we set up the last big push. So I'm not convinced that this is ready to go breaking out just yet. I do think we're definitely going higher. up into the 60 plus maybe 64 or 65 area before we're done. But again, this has been quite the run. We need a correction. So be extremely careful. If this thing flushes and we do one of these little carry trade unwind, our markets could flush very fast. And that's what we saw in both examples. We got a little taste of it back in July of 2024. Then we saw it on Liberation Day with the tariffs. It's all about the tariffs. Well, tariffs are still around. We got potential war with the Middle East over there and Iran. So we shall see what's the catalyst for it. But this does just not go straight up forever without the pullback. Just see what happened to silver, right? I warned you big time about that. And silver did exactly that. Right up, ripped, and be careful on this bounce because probably still need a flush lower and make a new low. Maybe this low was the end. So if you're back in silver real big, thinking this is the breakout, we're going up to new highs. Yes, I think silver has more upside before it's done. I'm not convinced that that move is the end. We probably need a three-wave correction, A, rally B, come down in C, and I'd like to see silver flush down to like 50 bucks or so. So that's the kind of the plan. Recent high to low. You can kind of clean this up since we have so many on here. And I'm flipping the silver just to get the point across on that global liquidity. It doesn't matter what the market. That's the psychology of a market cycle. I'm just removing all these lines because I know it's like nothing but lines. Let's clean this up. And then I'll put some fresh ones on here. But it kind of sets the tone where how high can this rally go? Maybe it's ready to break out. It's possible, but unlikely. But maybe we could go a little bit higher. This is going to be a massive resistance zone up here. This zone up here, the goalpost up here, is going to be big time resistance. And if this is, Harold, if that's the A and this is going to be a B and we get a C, that could get us down at 50, 40 range would be ideal. What happens if we get that A, B, C and prices at 50 and lower, then it's probably a good time to start nibbling for this thing to go breaking out. Amen? Any questions? So be careful. If the dollar starts ripping higher, it'll put more pressure. Typically, it's correlated when it is. It's not when it's not. So it doesn't mean can the dollar go down and silver go down the same time? Yeah. But typically, it's dollar related. So when the dollar starts ripping higher, silver pulls back. And then when dollar goes tanking, gold and silver go ripping. So we are expecting more downside on the dollar before we're done. I am expecting more upside on silver, but I would be very careful with this bounce here. We probably still need one more flush because this looked very impulsive. And this looks more like the A, B, and we still need one more flush. But what did I warn you about that parabolic move? It would at least give us a 50% decline, and that would be the Magic Fibo. We went to 40+% decline. That's this guy here. You go up from the high, you come down to the low, and we got like a 40+% decline. And I'm not convinced that's over. I think we probably need a little bit more to set the tone. And on silver futures, we did get a little bit more than that, about a 48%, 47.5% decline from the high. So, Mr. Tucson, that's why I still think we probably need another little bit more of a flush. And that would put us somewhere around that $50 and lower would be a great place. Why? Because it's just like this base camp. We went parabolic. We come back to that base camp to then set the next reversal. Rip up, rip down, boom. So please be careful if you're loading back into this. So I'm a smart investor. I bought it when it dipped down here to 63, and now I'm up at 87. Good for you. Take profit, because this looks like it needs one more flush. We need a new swing point low, come down to the Magic Fibo, and preferably even a little bit lower. But I'd love to see come down to that 50 to 40 range would be ideal to set up the next big run. And let's just finish up what I was doing with global liquidity. And that's why I'm looking at this is when this thing flushes, it's going to pull us down too. And that might be the correction we're looking for. Amen. So be careful with this. Been kind of chopping and grinding. At some point, we're going to get that pullback. And when this baby flushes, it will pull NASDAQ down. It will pull Russell down. It will, ES is further up there, ES down, etc. So that's what I'm looking for. So in closing on our markets, ES I don't think is going to go breaking out. I think we do need a new flush. Down at least the daily Magic Fibo would be ideal. Yes, we're going to go up here. Still think, no question, we're going to go up higher, but I don't think this is ready to go breaking out yet. I think we need one more flush to clean that up. NASDAQ, we haven't made a new all-time high since this over here in October of last year. And we tried, but it still was a lower high. This still looks like it needs one more flush lower. We already reached the daily Magic Fibo, unlike ES. That's why I think this would be a good place for it to flush down to. So NASDAQ, since we're already there, we need to flush lower. And that's where that 3-day moving average comes in, into that 22-ish. So maybe we just kind of grind lower into this target. Magic Fibo is sloping upwards in this zone. So on the 3-day, so here it is over here. Pretend these red lines are Magic Fibo. So we start correcting toward this target. We intersect, and then we go. But I do think we're going to make all-time highs on the NASDAQ. Whoops. I do think we're going to make all-time highs on ES. I do think the Dow is going to make all-time highs above this one and go higher. All these are highest probability, but we need probably that bigger flush before we can get up there. So be extremely careful. If you're trading long, be aggressive on your profit taking. You're trading short, be aggressive on your profit taking. And if we can get 3 of our 4 markets on the daily, and the last one being the NASDAQ toward that 3-day, we get the flush. That sets up a perfect bounce opportunity to go bubble hunting. Amen? All righty. What else? What about our other trades that we're looking at going? Tesla, just kind of grinding and holding this zone. I'm still very bullish, longer term Tesla. I still haven't done anything as far as my TSLL. We continue to dip further. If we do get a flush down in here, maybe that's what we need, Emil. Get a flush down about 380. Come test this low down here. Make a new, all this chopping and grinding. Give us one more little flush into that 380 zone. Set the tone for the move. Then we can get maybe TSLL to dip toward that $12 range or so. You might want to add, but back when TSLL was at $6, I kind of said it. Man, this is a beautiful time to add a bunch of those. And I'm looking for this thing to go ripping. And we may need a little bit more correction before we get there. But this is still setting up very bullish to go breaking out into that 550, 650 range. Could it go higher? You betcha. If it extends to 800 or 900 and just goes insane and rips, then this TSLL is going to go ripping times 2. So that's how I typically play this a lot instead of just straight options, which I do play as well. But you got to have the timing right where you do it on these. Timing's not as important, obviously, because as long as it gets there, then this is going to take that leverage product up with it as well, and then with a 2x force. I like it. So could we get the flush? Yeah. I don't expect Tesla to go ripping higher if we get NASDAQ to flush down like we're looking for. We get ES and those other markets. We get our indices to give us that flush, straighten up the correction. It would do the same on this one. Low, high. It's kind of chopping and grinding and chopping and grinding. Probably need one more flush. So around that 380, maybe 360-ish range. We get down in there, straighten up all this prior move. We had this move down, three-wave correction, popped up. Now we're overlapping, so this is still very overlappish. That's why more than likely we need that last flush. All I can say is if this pushes us down to $12 and lower, I'm probably going to add some more and look for that big push to go into end of the year, maybe next year, etc. But the plan is this thing to go ripping. Would I be surprised by year end that Mr. Tesla dips and rips and gets up here by year end? No, not even the least bit surprised to get up to that. And this could be a conservative target. I do think Tesla is going to make a much bigger run longer term. It's not about just EVs. It's about robots and robocabs and all kind of other things he's doing in AI, etc. So there's a lot more involved than just EVs. Got it? So this is why I think we're going to go ripping. Look for the flush. That would be ideal. Then we can look for the rip. And what are the downside target? Break a new swing point low. So probably in the 380, maybe 360, somewhere around there. And then look for a big bounce. And still looking for big upside. Remember when it was down here back in October of 24, we made a bold statement that Tesla was going to make a run toward 500. You might consider this TSLL leverage product. And sure enough, it went from below $10 up to 41. And then on this pullback, we started targeting a little early. I was looking for like kind of a 618 zone to hold, nibbled here. And then when it got down to 6, I kept saying, you need to be taking advantage of this. And it more than quadrupled to get from 6 to 24, 23 and change. So then we took some profits, get a dip, take profits. So I still have some of these. It's on the house's money. This is the house's money, bought that. This is the house's money yet again. I'm still looking for a big push. So do we dip lower? You betcha. If Tesla's going to go dipping down to 380, maybe 360, this thing's going to dip down to that 12-ish, maybe $10 range, somewhere in there. Load up again. If you're not in it and didn't take advantage of this or advantage of that, you're going to have another opportunity because this thing is going to go ripping probably before year end, but maybe even sooner. But this potential target is Tesla needs to go ripping up not only 550, 650, but in order to get to the 60s and stuff, probably needs to start pushing toward 800. Got it? But that is the plan. We're going to go conservative targets in mid 30s. So if I can buy around 12 or lower, get that flush, and we're going to at least get some mid upper 20s to mid 30s, that's like a triple, which we've done this over. That was over a 4x right there. And that was about a 4x there, close to it. And we're due to go another one. And that could be conservative because what if, William Bruce, we actually get a bigger push toward the 40s or even 50 up here? It would take Tesla going at 650, pushing 7, going toward 8, 9. This thing's going to shoot way up here. Okay. All righty. Meta. Meta's still setting up, just grinding and chopping and holding. Got the bigger correction, bounce, and been doing it over and over. So I still have big plans for Mr. Meta up around that 1100, 1300 target. Yes, it could take a couple of years to get there, a year at least, maybe 2, somewhere in that zone. So I'm not trying to tell you, well, if I buy it now, it's going to be up here and we're at 600, we're going to double within a 6 months. I mean, anything's possible. This is a high probability target based on this price action. We may need one more flush. If everything flushes, then probably going to see it. But the plan is, I already own some of this METU. When I brought it to your attention a few weeks back, we were down here in the 20s. It ripped all the way to the 30, almost 40. So that was a beautiful take some profits. Now we're coming back down. So if you didn't take advantage of that, then we may get one more flush. And what if we flush down in here? I still have some shares. I did take profits, but I have some shares, entry point around 26, which I'm still up. But what if it goes underwater? Am I going to panic and sell for a loss? No, it's already on the house's money, the money I brought in. But if it does, I'm just going to add to my position down here. And then when it goes ripping, this thing could go postal and parabolic and shoot us up near 80. If Tesla makes its run and we get Meta to make its run toward that 1100, 1300, split the difference around 1200, that would put us a run up near this 20, like a 200% increase. And that would put us somewhere near in the 70s, $80 range. And we could be buying it in the 20s. I like it. That could be almost a 4X. Amen. Then you get dividends every so often, every quarter. So while you own these shares, you do get dividends. And I'm looking to get that dividend in March. So those shares I own, we get a little something, something. And then when it goes ripping, we'll be able to make some more profits again. Amazon, looking a little bit more, is this the bottom finally? And we're ready to go ripping. Got a beautiful 618 out of this, not bad. So if we can get back above the Magic Fibo and this ends up being the low, the high and the higher low, then look at these upside targets, 307, 319, maybe 350. And if we do the leverage product on that, AMZU, that could put us up here maybe in the 50s. That wouldn't be too bad. Buying it in the 20s, getting into the 50s, basically about a double, at least. So again, we could go lower. We could get that flush. So this isn't a guarantee. This is the end, and this is definitely the bottom. But I still think it's worth entertaining when we finally get our markets to give our flush we're looking for, and we expect the ES to go breaking all-time highs, the NASDAQ to go breaking all-time highs, the Dow to go breaking all-time highs. What do you think Amazon's going to do during all that pressure of everything going higher? Going to go higher, and the higher Amazon goes, the higher AMZU goes times 2, and that's why we're kind of looking at these upper targets. Got it? No buy, sell to hold, can't tell you what to do, but these are setting up. Even the Hoodmeister down in here is this thing setting up, holding at 618, ready to go blasting off. I do think it's got a lot more upside to come. The stock alone has done very well since its IPO, went ripping, got a big pullback, back into the area. So yes, this could go still a little bit lower, but there is still big upside potential on this. And if we just do this duplicate A, B, C correction, this thing could go up into the couple of hundreds here and potentially 140, 150, 170, 190. Not trying to tell you Hood's definitely going there, but this technical picture looks good based on that 618 bounce. We got to see it break above the 618 from the recent high to low. Sets the tone for us to go much higher, but might not be a bad idea to do a little something, something on this new leverage product. And this is on a monthly chart. So why would I be interested in buying something that's just red candle, red candle, red candle? Well, this is the new 2X leverage product. And when Hood underlying goes ripping, which is the plan, this is going to go ripping times 2. Fair enough. You don't see a lot of data on this because it's a new entity. But just do the math. You get the high, you get the low, and we don't know what the low is yet. If our market's flush, like we're thinking, this is going to go lower. So where do we go? If it goes into the teens, $5, $3, $4 range, and we get our ES, right? Just kind of drawing it on it. We get ES to go down to the daily Magic Fibo. We get NASDAQ to push below the daily Magic Fibo, pushing toward that 23,000, 22,000 range, which is where that 3-day Magic Fibo is. We get the Dow to push, Russell to push toward that daily Magic Fibo, and we're looking for the markets to go breaking all-time highs. It's going to take the undercurrent, it's going to pull pretty much all of these with it. And that would be this hood go up, HODU goes up times 2. There's your 2x leverage, and this thing could go soaring. So is this the low? Probably not. I really want to see the markets flush one more time. That'll probably put pressure on this to flush some more. So I did buy a couple of shares down at this low, and I'm looking to get in and push more. What? Cost amortize right there, a little dollar cost averaging, because I'm looking for that market rip to take even Hood and a lot of other Hood, Magnificent Seven, Tesla, Meta, Amazon, etc. When our markets all bottom and go blasting off, looking for these to go blasting, and those leverage products can go blasting times 2. And that's why I'm looking for this opportunity. No buy, sell to hold. Again, I can't tell you what to do. It's not my job. But that's what I'm doing. And I'm looking for some big rewards in the next several months to next couple of years on these plays. Got it? So get the flush when our markets, and I kind of in class with you, and I go, dude, Emil, we're down on a daily Magic Fibo. That daily's reversing, PAI hooking. That's the time, if you're not already in this, to be buying some more. And if you already bought some, don't panic if you're going to go a little underwater. All it means is if I bought 100 up here at 8, for example, and it gets down to 4, and I buy 100 more, well, now my net will be 6. And then when it goes ripping, it doesn't matter. The ones that I bought at 8 will go into profit. The ones I bought at 4 will be in bigger profit. My net will be 6, that kind of thing. That's what we mean by dollar cost average. Amen? So is this thing going to go ripping? In my humble opinion, that is the plan. Even on healthcare side, healthcare is going to get a big shakeup with the new AI. AI is far superior to their getting graduate students to start doing these models that looks at prediction and what kind of drugs and what kind of lifespan that these people have and these healthcare problems and blah, blah, blah. Well, AI can do that much more better, faster, more efficient without paying the big salaries. So it's going to shake up the healthcare industry, give them a little bit more insight. So it could help premiums come down, profits go up. And I'm looking for this to have a big surge in the long term as well. So that's UNH. And we had a big correction on this thing, massive correction. And after that big sell-off, I'm looking for a retracement and a recovery. And that's why I'm looking for some UNHG leverage product to do the same. And I nibbled down here, bought just a few shares, and we get that flush lower. I'm a cost amortize, right? Dollar cost average on the same thing, and then look for this thing to go ripping once UNH does the same. So again, I can't imagine these big players. We got a beautiful 618786 retracement zone that I'm looking for this thing, even if it just rips back to the Magic Fibo. Look at that. That's good $130 plus range to get up there. even if this is just a bigger A, B, C correction, this thing could almost double based on maybe we get a little bit bigger dip, double just on that. And that would mean this guy would double times 2. So again, I'm not trying to tell you what to do here, but I've been nibbling on some of these, and some of the others I'm going to nibble even harder once I get that flush. So let's go back and circle the wagons on what we're talking about. I don't think this is ready to go breaking out. Be careful. I still think it needs, let me go to the daily. I still think it needs that flush. No question. So could we go breaking out? Yeah, we're definitely going to go to all-time highs. In my humble opinion, that is, no ifs, no buts, no ands, we're going to go and make all-time highs. But this recent chopping, overlapping, kind of grinding price action looks like it needs one more flush. And as we flush, it'll pull some of those guys down, right? Meta probably go a little lower, Tesla, Amazon, etc. You get the ES to flush, you get the NASDAQ to give us that flush to clean this chopping, overlapping up, set the tone for the run. And this is when I want to get in on all of those opportunities. UWM, ES, we could do it that way, or we can just go straight to some of those stocks we're looking at. That's the Tesla, Apple, right? AAPU, already nibbled on that. Looking for this to go much higher, 290, 300, it's a high probability target still. And then a lot more upside in the longer term, maybe 360s up here. So a lot of these have opportunities for us. And EMEA, the better these hold up. When our market flushes and the better they hold up, even better when the market reverses and goes ripping, this thing's going to go ripping with it. So looking for all of these to give an opportunity for us. Tesla, TSLL, Meta, it's 2X, METU, Amazon, AMZU, et cetera, et cetera. But again, just what I was circling the wagon, I really want to see that last flush down here. That's what I'm looking for. And as we get it, that's when I'm going to look to make sure I have some of these leverage products on those markets we talked about and on those stocks that I'm in it. And if I'm already in it and I'm a little bit underwater in some of those, then I'll just dollar cost average as the pullback happens. And then when the markets go ripping to these bubble hunting, it's going to pull Apple, Tesla, Meta, Amazon, etc. with it, and likely going to see the big push. Okay? All righty. Lots of opportunities for us. That's why you're here. What about black gold Texas tea? Be careful with this. This thing is setting up for a big flush and or a big rip. To the upside, we have that 100 target. To the downside, we got the 50 target, kind of sandwiched in between. I'm still looking for a flush. That makes more sense for the chopping, overlapping, basic price action. This thing just still looks like it needs one more flush. Ever since we got this low over here, all this overlapping, chopping, just ugly. Looks like we need one more flush. All I can say again is, Harold, we get the flush. We know what the plan is. Been repeating that for a very long time. We get to 50 and lower. My first instinct is to buy some leverage UCO so that when this baby goes ripping, I can get ripping times 2. I'm not convinced that this is the breakout. We've seen it fail. We've seen it fail. So we've been above this area, but we're still in the same zone. We've seen it fail. We've come up to this high before, failed. We've come up to that high before. This was post when the market, we got that low I was looking for, and the rockets fired off in the Middle East, shot up, failed, right? So this is why we need one more flush to clean all that up. So am I guaranteeing we're going to flush? All I can say again, there's no guarantee we have to flush. But if and when we do, which is still a higher probability, it's more likely we're going to flush than we go breaking out just yet. When we get down here, we're still going to go ripping up toward that $100 range. What is that? You go out to like I guess we can get there on a 3-day, and we come back to this recent high. And what are we looking for? From that high to this low, which again, I still think can go down to around 50 or lower before we're done, we get a push toward 90 to 100. This is in the cards. So Emil, whether we do it now or we flush, we're still going to do it. This 90 to 100 target in the future is a high probability. Is it because we go to full-blown war? And what's the first thing to strap the Iranians after blowing up their nuclear capabilities? Is to take out their oil refineries. That's where they're getting money. Take those out. What typically happens if we do something like that? Oil's going to spike. So I'm not trying to tell you this is a guarantee. We have to flush. Price-wise, all this overlapping, like I told you over here, when we got back in May of 2023, and we started just chopping and overlapping. I kept saying it for months and months, even years, that we were going to do what? Flush and get a new low. We got it. That baby surged with the rockets and then failed. So since then, this move here, overlapping, high, low, lower, high, overlap, lower, high, lower, low, chop, overlap, ultimately led to a new low. Now, since then, we got the exact same thing going. Looks like rinse and repeat. From this new low, we got the chop and the grind, the pop, the pullback, the lower high, the pullback, the overlap, the pullback, the overlap, pullback, the overlap. And the last time we did something like that was over here, right? We kind of did this lower high, lower low, chop, grind. And then we got what before we got the lat? We got a pop, and it looked like it was going to break out. And then what happened? We got a lower low. See it? So I think that's kind of where we are now. We kind of did the same pop. We got the drop, the lower high, lower high, lower high, and just kept grinding. And look at since this new low here versus that one over there, actually this one here, we got the same kind of price action. Grind, new low. That set the tone to go breaking out, but nope, we did it again. This looks just like this over here. Chop, up, down, lower high, lower high, lower high, and a head fake pop to a lower low. We got this chop, grind, pop, lower high, lower high, lower high. And now it looks like we're getting that head fake pop to give us the flush, just like we did there. Right? Price tends to repeat itself. So this is what I'm telling you. We still have this lower high trend line we've been struggling with. And the last time we broke that, before we got the flush, we're kind of doing it now. We did it here and go way back. We 7 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We're on the 7. We can count these as doubles here. 5, 6. There's a 2 there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Amen? So be careful. This is why, man, if we get that flush, I know what I'm doing. Boom, shakalaka. I'm buying a bunch of UCO. For what? That run up toward that 90 to 100. Well, up and until we start clearing this, be careful, because last time we had rockets flying, it quickly resolved. And I don't see us going into a prolonged war over there. I think they'll just take out their last oil reserves and they're sitting ducks if they don't cave now. And then the heat that's pushed this higher recently is going to help flush that down. Amen. All roads lead to this 90 to 100. but I'd like to see the dip first and then the rip, and that's the plan. Any questions? So Dan and others, be careful with this. Yes, rockets could fly and they blow up their oil reserves, etc., and their capabilities, their war, wherever they, go out to the ocean and ship it, take that out, a couple of strategic strikes on that, and they're dead in the water. Oil can go spiking on that, but then as the resolve of that could get us back down, then we get the push. But the technical picture says we're due to test that 50/618 retracement from that high to whatever the low is. If we already got the low, we still should come up here. And if we don't have the low, once we do get it, make a lot more sense to get it, technically speaking, then we still going to get it. Got it? And that could put a kink into the markets. That could help the market really crash. Why? Well, it's about we're going to cut interest rates. We're going to cut interest rate. Oil prices start pushing 90 to 100, which is in the cards. That's going to force inflationary pressures. And what happens when inflation starts ripping higher? You have to raise rates, not cut rates. And the markets hate uncertainty. And the certainty is, oh, we're going to keep cutting rates. That's the plan. We're going to cut rates. Well, if that happens, or when this happens, that's going to force inflationary pressure. And then Mr. Fed's going to have to start raising rates, which will definitely tick off the market and get perhaps that Elizabeth, I'm coming to join you, honey. I'm not talking about, well, we got to get oil prices to rip up here before the Fed starts raising rates, and that's going to give us a little pull back toward the daily Magic Fibo, etc. No, we're looking for that technical picture to play out. Then we get the pop to all-time bubble hunt. Then we get that much bigger Elizabeth, I'm coming to join you. So we can reiterate that back to this, Harold. I think we're going to get a dip, then we're going to rip. So we know how to play those with the stocks and the ETFs, right? Tesla, TSLL, Meta, METU, Amazon, AMZU, Hood, HODU, UNH, UNHG, et cetera, et cetera. Those type of plays when we get the dip and the rip. But then after we rip and we get up into that bubble, I'm looking for a major correction. Is it going to be the Elizabeth, I'm coming to join you, honey, total absolute market crash, or just a big correction? Either way, it is due and it's on the charts. So as much as on the charts to get a dip and a rip, after we get up to these nosebleed sections, we need a much bigger correction. And whether or not it's Elizabeth, I'm coming to join you, I'll guide you down that path when it's time. But for right now, let's just focus on the dip and buy the dip. What is the dip? That is, we come down to the daily Magic Fibo. I still think based on this price action, we need to flush and make a new low, flush it, set up a beautiful 618 measured bounce kind of thing out of that. And again, if that happens, look at the 3.2, that could push us towards 7,500. Beautiful. Dip, rip, crash. And is it going to be Elizabeth or just a big correction? Either way, that's definitely in the cards. And we'll be able to figure out those targets later. Let's just look for the dip first, then the rip. And what if we go ripping now and we're still going up here? All roads lead to all-time highs. And after we get to these new bubble all-time highs, a big correction is coming. Mark my words. Amen? So in closing, love to see the dip. We get the ES to do the Magic Fibo. We get the NASDAQ to do the, probably, since we're already testing the daily, 3-day pullback somewhere in that 23, maybe 22 range. And we get IWM to do the flush as well. All this chopping and overlapping need one more flush. So this is salivate country when we're down here. ES is down here. NASDAQ's probably closer to that 3-day Magic Fibo since it's already testing the daily. We get the flush first, then we get the rip. And these rips are going to be pretty substantial. Nice targets to the upside based on that. 25% on IWM. That's not bad. Certainly play that with UWM, low leverage product, like we've been talking about. The Dow, still think this isn't all-time high. I still think it's going to go bubble hunting yet again. Likely get a push lower. I'd like to see all markets get a flush to correct that stuff and get a beautiful 618 measured bounce kind of thing. Set the tone for a much bigger upside. Back above 50,000 and then some. Amen. Any questions? So what are we talking? 51, 52, somewhere up in that zone? Kind of the plan. Remember, I did say guarantee, kind of talked about that we would definitely reach 50,000. We've done it, but now that we've done it, I'm looking at this price action. I still think we need more upside to call the bubble and then the much bigger correction. All righty? All right. Now, what about that black gold? Again, be careful. Just while we're doing this, I'd love to see the flush, Dan. So if you're up on that trade, be sure you're take profits. Looking for this, we start breaking below the swing point here. The Magic Fibo sets the tone for us to come lower, and we take the recent low. This will kind of set the tone as well. From that recent low to the high, we start breaking the Magic Fibo. We take out 59 area. So we break back below here. We close below 59. That sets the tone for the low 50s. And that's why I keep saying 50 and lower. Amen? Any questions? And what if it does it, William Bruce? What if we get down to 50 and lower? UCO. Because this thing's going to go ripping. And when it rips times 2, I like it. What if I'm wrong and this thing goes ripping now? Then so be it. But I'm very cautious that this thing's ready to go ripping here because of this price action really needs one more flush. Then we can talk about going long. Okay? All righty. But this, I'd definitely be taking profits on, looking for a push lower. And I warned you the last several weeks to months that what? We could probably just chop sideways. This thing could just go sideways for a while before we either dip to rip or we go at war and blow up some refineries, etc. Then this thing goes spiking. But this thing is ready for a blast off. Up toward 100, down toward 50. One way or the other, we're going to get it. I just like to see it this way first, because then I can load up on some leverage products and look for this thing to go soaring thereafter. Okay? All righty. What about gold? Be careful again. This was when I warned you about gold, very bullish on gold for the longest. And I warned you when this thing went parabolic that one of these trains is going to be the last one. We're going to get a big pullback. We got it. Is this the end? We're ready to go breaking out? No, it doesn't look like it. Looks like we still need one more flush, kind of the flush scenario. This was very impulsive. That looks like the A. I get my little marker up here. This looks like the A. This chopping and overlapping looks like a B. And we need a flush down in C. And love to see it come back toward the Magic Fibo, maybe a little bit lower toward that 4,000, 3,700 would be ideal. A, B, C. Then we could set up the next rush. Is it thing possible it could go breaking out? Yeah. The dollar goes plummeting, this thing is likely to go higher. And that is the plan for it to go lower, but are we going to go breaking out? This is why corrections are a little bit difficult. How is this the A and that's the B and the C? That's the overwhelming reality is more likely we're going to get the flush. But so far, this looks like we need a little bit more upside before we're done. So come back over here. Well, I guess I'll use my arrows. This looks like this is a little A, B, C to finish this A. So what does this look like? This first impulsive move down is the big A. This little move up is the little a. Circle it so it calls your attention. This little move down is the little b. This last move up would be the little c, which would make the B, big B, right there, terrible looking B. And then we flush down into the big C. That's ideal. So please be careful on these rallies. We're rallying into the resistance zone. Yes, we could go a little bit higher toward that 5350 area. Not out of the question. If that is the A, the B, and the little C, then a kind of equality puts us about that 5350. What are we talking about? This scenario with the 3-point tool. And that would put us just shy of all-time highs. Amen? So maybe a little bit more upside, maybe not, but this still looks corrective and we need one more flush. And silver's in the same boat. I don't think this is the end of that move and we're ready to go breaking out. I still think it's going to fizzle and push lower. So if you're scalping or doing something to the upside, be extremely careful and be aggressive profit taking. Once we get a flush down to 50 and lower, I really like it. So, I mean, that's pretty big flush to do it. But if we get equality, and we can use arrows or you can use your little tools, but if this is the initial flush, and this is the correction, maybe we go a little higher first. Maybe we come up to the 618 zone. That would put us somewhere in that 50-40 range. That would be beautiful. A, B, C. Again, the same rule. That looked very impulsive. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that looks like an A. Right, Harold? Everybody with me? That's an A. A little three-wave correction in a B. And how much higher can we go? We can push it a few more. Here's from the high to the low, 618, 786 zone. So maybe we push a little higher. Then we get a 5-wave down in a C, putting us somewhere around that 50-40 range to set up the next big run. That's kind of the plan. So if you're still holding on long term, fine. We'll get a flush down here and then we'll go, but this thing could hurt. You know, we're in the 80s, we could flush to the 40s, maybe half of that again, just like we did up here. About a 50% decline, it was 48%. That's pretty big. And I still think we got another flush coming. At least down here to the 60s where that Magic Fibo is sitting. But if it's going to do some sort of quality move, we need to go a bit lower. All I can say is we get down in this area, it's time to take those profits and then look to buy with those profits another big run. So I'm not trying to say this silver is done, stick a fork in him, he's out. No, but we do need another flush. And I want to at least see the Magic Fibo. And if it's equality type of flush, then we need to go lower, which again would put us somewhere in that 50 to 40 range would be ideal. Anytime silver starts getting below 50, I become very interested, like I was when we talked to you about this a few years back, and we got into that move on silver when we got what? Back during COVID, we got that ridiculous pullback and silver prices bottomed down in here. I was like, man, you need to get into this. It's going to go up and reach those targets we talked about. And then I guaranteed it was going to go to 50, 60, blew past 60, 70, excuse me, blew past that. Warned you when we got up here, it's time for a big retracement and we're not done yet, in my humble opinion. I don't think this was a great buying opportunity down here. Yes, it turns out you got a little scalping action up, but that's the A, this is the B, and we need one more flush. Then we can not only get in at a lower price again, all those profits, but we can rinse and repeat, look for more upside. And last but not least, crypto, still in this bearish crypto winter cycle. Still think a correction is coming. I will go on record as saying this, my friends, is not the low. 60,000 is not the end, Mr. Tucson. We're going to get flushed down to 50 and lower is the plan. This thing can start chopping and grinding for months. Is this going to hold and we go breaking out? Or is this going to flush one more time? Then we get the correction pushing us out later in the year. Then the push lower down into the nibble zone, which would be October range, September, October. But where does that come from? I'll consolidate this and move this back. Here's the zone. Whether we get a flush to 50,000 and lower, the moment you hear Bitcoin is at 50,000 and lower, that's a good time to start nibbling. Right? 50,000 and lower is a beautiful time to start nibbling, whether it's tomorrow, next week, 6 months from now. It's kind of the ideal time. We start bottoming somewhere around September, October. And I know that's not on the scale right here. There's 27 right there. But we look for this to come down somewhere around September, October at 50 and lower. What if we flush down there now? I'll start nibbling. Right? To start nibbling. Just like we did back in 2022. When Mr. Bitcoin was at 20,000 and lower down here during that period, actually right there, during this correction, what did I say? Opportunity of a lifetime. It's like committing a crime. It's such a steal of a deal that Bitcoin below 20,000, if you don't participate, you're going to be sorry that it was expected to go ripping. And just to reiterate, every 4 years, the blue line, we do a crypto halving, Bitcoin halving, and we've learned from history, and even though it looks like a flat line over here, every 4 years, Bitcoin goes ripping 12 to 18 months, big 70 to 80+% decline. That one declined by 85%. Then we bottom crypto winter. We start climbing back toward and grinding higher toward the next halving. And then we go what? 12 to 18 month rip. And then we get a 70+% decline. Then we get a low. We start drifting toward the next halving, 12 to 18 month run. We get the pullback. And that brought us into this last one in 2022. Talked about it, saying we need to buy and shoot for this to go 12 to 18 months. We topped out exactly 18 months later. And now we're going down. So what do we know? It's a cycle. Every 4 year top, 17, 21, 25. And then we get the lows, 18, 22, 26, which we're in, but I think we're going lower into the year. Got it? And then what? We buy like we did in 22. We hold it to sell in 25. And we're going to buy in 26 and hold it till 29. Rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat. And this, my friends, is absolutely the, whoops, I want to use arrows, not grippers. That is the buy zone big time. So again, whether Bitcoin flushes down to 50,000 and lower tomorrow, next week, next month, the end of this quarter, next quarter, toward the end of the year, whenever it hits 50,000 and lower is your trigger to start the next investment cycle, which would put us in mid to late 26, maybe even early 27, but in that zone, 50,000 and lower today, tomorrow, next week, the end of the year, October, whatever, start nibbling. And then we'll do the same thing we did over here, let it grind and grunt to the next halving, which will be in 2028. And then 12 to 18 months post that puts us in late 29. and I expect Bitcoin will go into the hundreds of thousands this next surge. Yes, my initial target was 150. We got to 126. So I missed it by a smidge. That's okay. You got in at 20,000, you got out at 100,000 or more, 120 plus thousand, you're very happy. So the same thing here. We get in at 50,000, we get out at 200,000 plus. I'll be thrilled again. Amen. So any questions? Definitely without a doubt, no questions asked. Mr. Tucson, James, Ian, Alan, right there. I don't think that's the low. We are going to get another low. That's why I'm throwing that out there. 50,000 lower today, tomorrow, next week, next month, October, September, whatever. It gets there, start to nibble and pretend this is 2022. In September of 2022, when we talked about it, it could be September of 2026, or it could be next week. Start nibbling, but when we get there, we know the cycle. I've shown it to you, and I'll show it one more time. It's very impactful. Every 4 years we topped out. 21, 25, go further back. 17, right? 17 and 4 is 21. 21 and 4 is 25. 25 and 4 is 29. And then we bottom 18. 18 and 4 is 22. 22 and 4 is 26. So it's pretty easy to read this type of market. But what people do is when it starts ripping, they get in at the top and freak out. I'm here to guide you, not to tell you what to do, but to guide you. And when we get down into 50,000 and lower, that's the same as when we were 20,000 and lower. And I warned you it would rip towards 100 plus. I kind of thought 150 because it was one of my targets, but it's a little bit shy of getting there, but that's okay. From 20 to 150, 20 to 126 is still a huge move. So 50 and lower, man, it hits 50, I'm buying. Hits 40, I'm buying a bunch more. Hits 30, I'm buying a bunch more. And when do I sell? I don't sell till we get to 2029, right before 2030 over here. See 2030? So somewhere into that September, October-ish range of 2029. So we buy on 22, we sell 25. We buy on 26, we sell on 29. We buy on 2030, we sell on 33. You just keep doing the math. Right there, 21, 25, 29, 33. We're buying 30, selling 33. Got it? Rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat. So with that, I'll say good luck. God bless you. May the pips be with you. I'm humbled and honored to be your mentor and instructor. Remember, we have all of this in the Ninja Trader 8 platform. So all the goodies are included, including the drawing tools. So Fibonacci retracement, we've got the MPA Fibonacci retracement extension, just like you see on the charting platform. So from the high to the low, be careful with this bounce on pound yen. We're expecting it to bog down in that 211. Maybe it can go push a little bit higher, but the plan I showed you on the charting platform is this high to that low, lower high, lower low. Target's going to be down here at the Magic Fibo, which is sitting beautifully right there. So this rally should be taking profits and look to sell, as this will turn over and slingshot lower in the direction of the weekly pushing lower. That is the plan. Amen. So I just remind you that is in MetaTrader 4 and also NinjaTrader 8. So in closing, we love and appreciate you. Take care. God bless you. I'm humbled and honored to be your mentor instructor. Join us again tomorrow. That's it. That's all.